back to Cindy's library. This is Cindy, and today I'm going to report on what I have read for the first half of the month of June. So let's get to it. So let's be honest, the first 2 days I threw out mostly everything. And I finished up The Floating Admiral by the Detection Club. I think this is the first book like this that they did. Now there are different variations, but the idea was to earn money for the club, and so what they would do is they would join together to write a story. In this case, we start with the general premise. It's 3, 4 in the morning, and a fisherman sees a boat going down with apparently no one in it, but when he goes to inspect it, there is an admiral who moved into the area about a year before who is dead in that boat. Several funny things. It's not the admiral's boat, although he does have a boat for the river in the area. He has on his greatcoat, even though if it's not summer, it's pretty close to summer. Not the time when you need a greatcoat. And the vicar's hat is in it too. And there are definitely some people who might possibly have wanted the Admiral dead. There is his niece who wants to marry, but she won't approve the guy she wants to marry. There is the guy she wants to get married to. There's some funny business from way back in China that is mentioned. He has a missing nephew, and things go on from there. So we started with this basic premise, and a member of the Detection Club would write a chapter, then pass it on to the next without giving any more information of their ideas than what had been written. Although a number of them did put their ideas for a solution in the back as a kind of bonus. And then one person finally ended it all together, and another person put in a kind of preface knowing everything that happened. Not sure it's quite the best thing these authors ever did, but it sure was fun to read. Didn't want to put it down. And related to that, I also finished up The Golden Age of Murder by Martin Edwards, in which he goes over the early history of the Detection Club, how it started, key members, particularly memorable works by them that defined the genre, that changed the genre, all the way up past World War II, which of course interrupted everything. And even though there were a number of original members still available afterwards, and the Detection Club kept going, there were another group of members who, well, they had either died in the interim, or some just didn't care to be a part of the Detection Club anymore for one reason or another, and it never was quite the same again. It didn't have the same inventiveness that the 20s and 30s and early 40s had. It really was a remarkable era, and not everything you may have heard about it is necessarily fact. So, quite enjoyed that book on it. I also finished After All We Can Do, Embracing Hope, Grace, and Joy by Elder Dieter F. Uchtdorf. I believe this is basically compiled again from some of his talks that he has given in the past few years, but anything he writes, I will read. I'm there for it. He is absolutely so wonderful and encouraging. Because it turns out, after all we can do isn't the end, it's only the beginning. I also finished Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent by Judi Dench. Now this is basically an interview format. I think it even started with the interviewer Brandon O'Hea wanting to interview her for the archives of the Globes or the National Shakespeare Company or something along those lines. And they ended up turning it into a book. Very interesting hearing about some of these stories. And I'm glad I read it. She definitely has some insights as someone who has played many of Shakespeare's characters. And I enjoyed hearing about those. I can't give this quite a blanket recommendation because there is some swearing in here. And she does talk frankly about life, though nothing that I would call explicit. So if you want to read this, keep that in mind. And then the star of the first half of the month, Brave Companions by David McCullough, Portraits in History. And no, I'm not doing the David McCullough read along, but after reading this, I kind of wish I'd forgotten how good he is. He really is so good at writing. Unlike most of his books, this is not a single topic. In fact, it's more a compilation of articles and essays and speeches he's done. And so it's interesting on that level because not all of them, but a number of them, I'm not sure which came first, but you can find greatly expanded in some of his books. He also has a lot to say about history and its importance and its role. So glad I read this one. Easy 5 stars. And if you have not read David McCullough before, this might actually be a great place to start because it's quite thin for a David McCullough book. And it gives excellent sketches of 17 different characters or topics, and you'll easily be able to see if his style is for you with this book. And if it is, great, you can look at some of his longer works, and if not, well, you can say you gave him a try and maybe picked up a few of his ideas about history on the way. So that is what I have finished here in the first half of June. So a lot still to work on. And to be fair, I've done more than just this. I've read several letters by Tolkien. I've read several poems by C.S. Lewis. And yes, Screw Tape. Of course, I've read some more Screw Tape as well, although I haven't finished any of those. So, my Tolkien journey for June. We've got a decent start. Have a lot to do though. So, how has your June been going so far? Are you doing any of the challenges like the Tolkien journey or June on the range or anything like that? I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for stopping by. I truly do appreciate it. So until next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy. And as always, happy reading.